So first of all, before we talk about obsessive thinking, first of all, we talk about non-duality. So non-duality to me is being totally yourself. And I mean that on the human level, and I also mean that on the absolute level. And what it means on the absolute level is, this is going to sound so weird, but doing everything from this moment, that life appearing from this moment. Normally, what happens is you're watching someone and you're being someone in time. So you're being this personality structure in time, and you're imagining yourself and you're trying to be that person in relationship to the world. So you imagine that you came into this room, you sat down, and that you're now talking to me or listening to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I have imaginations of what Lisa's doing or not doing, but there's a difference from that something that appearing to it feeling like that person is the experiencer. So often people feel like that imagination of themselves is actually what's experiencing now. So you feel like you're somebody that's experiencing life. You're somebody that's experiencing this. When in actuality, there is simply this moment experiencing itself. And this moment is who you are, not an image of you in time, not a story of yourself in time. It's this moment. When you're identified with that person, then it creates an energy of seeking. And seeking to me is this holding on to pleasure and trying to avoid pain, and believing that pleasure is going to arrive, is going to bring you back home. That's not a conscious thought, but it's like when you arrive at getting the new house, when you arrive at doing something, when you arrive at being a better person, then you imagine this love that will come in the future, that you'll be satisfied, that you'll be fulfilled. And it's the same as well as negative things, so things that are painful for you. So if you get rid of the difficult accountant, or if you get rid of the difficult neighbours, then you'll be able to be at home. And then this seeking grows over the years, and it becomes more and more intense, and it's never satisfied because it never works out. You can never get to home in time because your home is who you are, which is this moment. Right here, right now. And that's who you are. And that's beautiful. And it's not meant to preclude feelings. I have a little bit of a tense feeling that's leaving my body. Khaleesi was just very naughty and had a fight with another dog. And this, like, I've post-traumatic stress syndrome a little with her. Like, she doesn't always fight with all dogs, and she can be really well behaved, but sometimes she can be psycho with another dog. Normally it's nothing happens, well, nothing happens because she wears her muzzle and stuff, so there's nothing that can happen, but it's shocking when it does happen. Shocks your system. So it didn't even happen to me, it happened to my friend who was walking there, but just when they came back and told the story, it was shocking. So there's that residue of shock that's in my body, and there's nothing wrong with that. That is simply a feeling. It's when you have that feeling and you try to avoid it. And most of the time you're not conscious of it. So say you could get a shock and you're not really conscious you're shocked. What might happen then is you obsessively talk about it, or you obsessively think about it, or you get angry, or you take it out on someone else. And you're not aware that there's a seeking dynamic happening, that you're really uncomfortable with the feeling and you're trying to avoid it through a habit. And sometimes I have seeking patterns as well come up. Like, I think our bodies are so entrenched in it. Like, I can have old seeking patterns where I try to avoid particular feelings. And that's something that's still working out in my body, like that's still processing through my body, those old energies. But non-duality is this shift from that seeker and that person being you to that being something that appears in you. And that feeling of stress isn't the cause of your unhappiness. That feeling of stress is, or discomfort about the way your child or dog has behaved, is simply a feeling. That appears and disappears, like the ocean and the sea, the waves coming in at the shore and pulsing in and out. And it will leave when it's ready to leave. So I was listening to a talk about this new medicine, alternative medicine that they're deriving. I don't know if I can really, oh yes, yeah I can. I was listening to talk about, I don't know if I can talk about these things. Maybe better I don't mention specifically what I'm talking about. So I was listening to a talk about a new herb, let's call it, that they're experimenting on, and this herb can make you hallucinate. And this is scientists experimenting on with this drug, and they begin to realize that it can totally shift somebody's fear or anxiety if the person surrenders into their feeling. So if when they're on this herb and they're having a hallucination, rather than the person seeing a monster and running away or feeling fear and trying to run away and avoid it, the person just allows that feeling to be there and allows it to come up. And rather than running away from the monster, just stands and faces the monster in terror, then they realize that this can have really profound healing qualities on the person and really shift their relationship with life. And this is the same as what's being taught. So they're now beginning to discover this in science with special herbs, but this is been known in non-duality and what non-duality teachers are speaking about with this seeking energy. It's rather than running away from feelings and avoiding feelings, it's coming back to the truth of what you feel right now. So often there's layers to feelings, like when you're really identified, like you might be feeling afraid, but it might be coming out on the surface as anger. So often you're unconscious of these feelings. So it's just coming back to the basic feeling of fear, or the basic feeling of stress, or the basic feeling of sadness, or whatever it is that you're deeply feeling. Not the surface story. So when you're really strongly thinking and identified, which is something that can come and go in people, you have sadness at the base of things, a fear of being abandoned, and then on the surface what you're doing is you're attacking someone for not being thoughtful, whereas really it's sadness and making you feel abandoned. And if you come back and stop jumping out of these feelings and just allow them to be there, then this is a profound healing process. It's a natural way of being. And this is what's talked about often in non-duality. All different non-duality teachers are talking about this. Is this allowing the feelings to be there, to arise. And just staying with them. And in a way, in order to really be able to do this, and something when you're on these special herbs, that it knocks out your sense of self, so it distorts the sense of who you are. So in a way, it's also at the same time realizing that these thoughts and feelings don't make up a you. They're not all sewn together making a linear you that's going through time that needs to be saved or needs to get somewhere. It's seeing that who you truly are is this moment, and in this moment thoughts and feelings arise, and ideas arise, and habits arise, and karmas arise, and disappear in this. And when you're just identified, you think that you're the thought, there's a feeling, and that there's somebody inside the body conscious that needs to be something else. So it's coming back and seeing that you're this moment, your essence and your home is this moment. This is all you've ever longed for, is what's happening. And that in that thoughts and feelings arise, and they're part of this experience. And there's nothing to be afraid of. They're just fear, just sadness. And when you're terrified of them, rather than physically running away, what the human does is it mentally runs away. So this is it, baby. This is the freedom. Right here, right now. I just wrote an email to somebody. They asked me a question, and I'm just asking them if it's all right if I answer it in my live stream. I don't like to just answer without asking them that. So obsessive thinking, there's there's lots of different reasons that obsessive thinking can happen. I can get stuck on obsessive thinking about something as well, but it just feels like it's very distant. It doesn't feel like it's very relevant. Like that's part of the mind. Like the mind can get stuck on thoughts. Maybe I don't get stuck on thoughts like I used to, but this can still be thoughts that get lodged in my head that keep repeating themselves. Like it's part of what the brain does. Like the brain fixates on things that need to be done or need to be finished. You need to plan. And to me, freedom isn't about not thinking. Some teachers teach that, and I can understand why they teach that, because I also think it's helpful to, like, in a way, sometimes practice these meditation practices where you're attempting to still your mind. Like, I think that's part of the process, but it isn't the end result. The mind thinks, like the heart beats and the liver processes blood, or whatever it processes. Or the bowels process poo. The mind thinks. And so there's different reasons. There could be that obsessive thinking because you've got like an OCD mind, which could be related to many different things. It's a condition that have been passed on from your parents. And it could also be because of identification. So this is the one I primarily want to speak about. And so obsessive thinking can arise from identification. So you believe that you're someone separate, and you believe that you're having an experience. And even though you might be into this subject and know that this isn't true, there's a part of you that feels, just let me see, somebody keeps ringing, is that? It's not making any sound for you guys, that's okay then. So there's a part of you that feels identified with the mind, feels identified with the body, you feel separate, and then something happens, like you have a fight with your partner, and maybe you suddenly feel very insecure and unloved, but on the surface you feel very angry with them, but underneath you feel insecure and unloved and abandoned. And so maybe what you do is you try to blame them or manipulate them into believing it's their thought. Maybe you're trying to convince them that you're innocent because you're afraid of that feeling of being unloved. or you're afraid of what you're actually feeling. So then what can happen is obsessive blame thoughts or guilt thoughts or angry thoughts in your head and keep going over and over and over it again. Or maybe you get stuck in an argument with someone for days. And this is a practice that you can do to help break that. I've spoke about this many times with people online, but there's no harm in going through it again. Repetition. So firstly, when I say it's a practice you can do, just know that's a prescription of something that can happen, and it's not a description, because there's not actually a separate you that's doing anything. It's something that happens. This information is given about different ways to handle it, and then somebody feels like, I can do things, and then they do things, but that person that feels like it's separate and does things isn't actually the doer. There is no doer. There is only life happening, and there isn't a solid person in these bodies. There is thoughts and feelings and energies arising, giving the appearance that there is somebody choosing, but there isn't actually someone choosing, and that's super important, seeing that. Super important. But this is a practice. So you first of all, you notice that your mind is angry. So say if it's a fight with your partner, you're angry that they've treated you in a certain way, and you feel lots of anger. So you first of all have to identify where you experience that anger in your body, like where you're feeling that. So that might be difficult for some. So I've been doing it for so long, I can't remember what it felt like to start doing that, to be able to associate what you're thinking with what you're feeling and where you feel it in your body. So you can just begin to notice, where is it that I'm tense in my body? Where does it hurt? You can begin to massage to see if there's anywhere super sensitive. Do you feel a bit sick? Do you feel tightness? From my experience is that you'll have it in your chakra. You could be like in your legs, because the chakras actually go out into the whole body, and it could also be outside of you. Like space is actually an illusion, but normally you feel it in the torso area. So somewhere, most probably somewhere from your neck, if it's an emotion, down to your root chakra, so down to your groin, and you'll feel it somewhere along there. It could be that the anger comes from the solar plexus. Often anger comes from there, and it could also be mixed with the heart, so it's not always necessarily in one place. So it's anger's coming from here, and then in the heart it's also feeling sore. And you just go into that feeling. So you feel anger and you identify, okay, it's in my solar plexus, so maybe they make me feel helpless. And then you ask yourself, why do I feel helpless? Because I can't win at this situation. What does it matter if you can't win? Then they'll be right and I'm bad. What does it matter if you're bad? I'm bad. And I'm just doing this very quickly, like this is it might take you a lot longer. So then maybe it begins to go up to your heart, and it's like, I'm bad person. If I'm guilty, I'm bad. And if I'm bad, so what does that mean if you're bad? Then I'm unlovable. Nobody loves me. And what does that mean if you're unlovable? I'll be abandoned. I'm unloved. I'll be kicked out from society. So maybe you feel it in your heart, but maybe it's connected also to the solar plexus and jumps from one to the other. Now that's me going through it really quickly, like stepping down. So you start off at anger. When you're doing for yourself at first, it might be really hard to do because you keep jumping back up into the story. Then you just allow that feeling of abandonment, so the core feeling in of abandonment, feeling unloved, of feeling rejected. And you just allow it into your experience without rejecting it. So you kind of have you're kind of conscious of this moment. So there is like consciousness of what's happening, and then there's a consciousness of the feeling, and then you can feel the thoughts keep wanting to like take over the screen. And then what you do is you keep putting your attention back in this moment. So Nisargadatta and Roger and Ramesh would have phrased it as like staying in the I am, in this moment. And some teachers might say, you know, putting your attention in consciousness. But I would say put more in the I am. Like the I am feels more like everything. Consciousness feels like something removed. And you've got to include that feeling. So putting your attention in this moment with that feeling, not rejecting that feeling, not trying to get away from this feeling. And then what you can do throughout the day is you notice that your mind is going off on thoughts and on discomfort, and then you keep coming back. You know that feeling is there, you've already explored, and you use it as a practice to come back to this moment and allow that feeling to be here. And this is a way to negate obsessive thinking and to settle the person down and to help relax the person. But no, all of that is being experienced. You can't actually put your attention in this moment, because even when your attention is lost in this moment, you're still in this moment. It's an illusion that you can ever leave this moment, but it's a practice that can help settle the person down. And help break obsessive thinking. Because when you're really obsessively thinking and identified with yourself, the screen is so blocked, like everything is so cluttered, and hearing the joy of how wonderful this moment is, it's like you're in discomfort, your mind is repeating a story again and again, and it doesn't feel wonderful. So it's just settling that system down. And then at some point, there'll be a reduction in the suffering, and there will be a hearing of this, and there will be an energetic shift, knowing who you are. But don't try to get to enlightenment or freedom or that shift. It will happen when it's going to happen. That the most important thing is this moment is what's happening. It's not about where you're going to end up in 10 years. But when you're in discomfort, then this is a really nice way of doing it. Of relaxing that obsessive thinking. And then this is it. This is it. This is it. Hi, Jordan. Hi, Lisa. I feel I want to write. Life is very challenging the past few days. Thanks a lot for the guidance you offer on the human level. Wish you a beautiful evening. Yeah, life can be challenging. So it's just allowing those feelings to thoughts to appear, and then also seeing that you're here and that this moment is all that you've ever wanted. That's all you've ever wanted, is this moment.